The UFC is officially wrapped for 2024. The champions that we have right now are going to be our champions going into 2025. In this video, I'm going to be giving you my predictions for UFC champions in each division by the end of 2025. I'm Wyatt, and this is Fight Society. All right, guys, so before we get into the video, please make sure to like, subscribe, drop a comment down below, all that good YouTube stuff. It really helps me out a lot. If you want to support the channel further, you can become a channel member and get access to bonus content through the link in the description of this video or the join button on our channel homepage. Thank you very much. Back to the video. All right, so I'm going to be telling you who I think the UFC champions in each division are going to be at the end of 2025. We're going to start with the heavyweight division. Our current layout is Jon Jones, undisputed champ, Tom Aspinall, interim champ, even though many people feel that his reign as interim champ is much more legitimate than Jon Jones as undisputed champ. Now, my prediction for 2025 is that Jones and Aspinall happens in the middle of the year. Aspinall wins, and then he goes on to fight Alex Pereira, where he wins that fight as well. So that, to me, that's the heavyweight division title picture for 2025. I think that Tom Aspinall finishes 2025 as the undisputed UFC heavyweight champion. Moving on from there, at light heavyweight, we have Alex Pereira as the current champion. Most people's clear-cut #1 contender is Magomed Ankalaev. Alex Pereira, however, may be putting that fight with Ankalaev on hold because he has flirted with a move to heavyweight. I think that Alex Pereira is going to beat Magomed Ankalaev in maybe June or so of next year. May or June, there's rumors of a Brazil pay-per-view. After an incredibly busy, like 15, 16 months for Alex Pereira, I think it makes a lot of sense. You had him fight in October. You give him off until like April, May, June, like 6 months off, completely recover, right back to it, dominating the division. I think that he beats Magomed Ankalaev in the middle part of next year, maybe early Q2, and then he goes up and fights Tom Aspinall, like I just mentioned, and loses that fight, but is still the light heavyweight champion. So I think that the light heavyweight champion at the end of 2025 is still going to be Alex Pereira. I think sometime around 2026 is probably where we're talking about Pereira retire, because he's 37 right now. Moving on from there, we have the middleweight champion, which is currently Dricus du Plessis. He's currently booked to be fighting Sean Strickland at UFC 312 in February. I think he's going to win that rematch. And then the very obvious #1 contender after Sean Strickland is Khamzat Chimaev. Now, Khamzat Chimaev has been sitting, waiting for this title shot. He smoked Rob Whittaker after a very tumultuous 2 or 3 years of not very much activity, weight misses, division changes, the whole thing. But he dominated Whittaker. I honestly would have rather seen Khamzat Chimaev against DDP over the Strickland fight, but we're here now, and there's rumors of them doing a August or September Australia pay-per-view, and that's not in the US. DDP has already fought in Australia once before. Now it's going to be twice with the Strickland fight. I think what happens with the middleweight division title picture in 2024 is Dricus du Plessis beats Sean Strickland at UFC 312, and then later in the year, like a UFC 317, 318, 319, something like that, in August or September, you get in Australia again, Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. I think Dricus du Plessis wins that fight, and the middleweight champion at the end of 2025 is still Dricus du Plessis. And at that point, maybe Alex Pereira is looking for contenders after beating Ankalaev, and we get like a Dricus du Plessis moving up to 205 to challenge for champ status against Alex Pereira, like early 2026 or something like that. Moving on from there, we have the 170-pound division, welterweight. Our current champion is Belal Muhammad. The #1 contender is Shavkat Rakhmonov. I have an interesting one for you guys on this. Here's what I think is going to happen with the welterweight title in 2025. March, April, May, something like that next year, Shavkat Rakhmonov defeats Belal Muhammad to become welterweight champion. Lightweight champion Islam Makhachev has already expressed an interest in trying to become double champ, but he doesn't want to fight Belal due to the fact that they've trained together, all that. Shavkat Rakhmonov defeating Belal Muhammad to become champion opens that up for Islam to go up to 170 and fight for the belt because it's not one of his former training partners. I think Islam can beat Shavkat Rakhmonov pretty handedly, honestly. I know that might be a hot take for me, but I think that he can beat Shavkat Rakhmonov pretty handedly. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think Islam is going to beat Arman Tsarukyan in January, and then his next fight is going to be against Shavkat Rakhmonov because he won't fight Bilal. So then he'll fight Shavkat, who is the new champion, in my opinion, and then beat him. And then I think that Islam Makhachev is actually the welterweight champion at the end of 2025, potentially even retiring early like Khabib. Moving on from there, the lightweight title. I just talked about Islam Makhachev moving up to 170 and becoming champion. If that happens, he definitely vacates the 155-pound belt. What I think happens in 2025 is you have January UFC 311 already announced, book, promo started. It's the first pay-per-view of the year. Islam Makhachev is going to defeat Arman Tsarukyan, in my opinion. And then he's going to move up and become welterweight champion, like I mentioned. Now that in the middle part or so of next year leaves a vacant belt at 155. I think what happens there is you have Charles Oliveira against somebody fighting for the vacant belt. I think Charles Oliveira wins. And I think the undisputed lightweight champion at 155 to end 2025 is actually going to be Charles Oliveira. And that would be just another great story of Charles going full circle back to the belt. Maybe it's even against an Arman Tsarukyan, like a rematch between them for the vacant belt after Arman loses to Islam in what I think will be a very competitive fight that Islam wins. I think that sounds good to me. So my prediction for the lightweight champion at the end of 2025 is actually Charles Oliveira. Moving on from there, we have featherweight champion Ilia Topuria. He is constantly expressing interest in fighting Conor McGregor and Islam Makhachev, Charles Oliveira, moving up to 155. They say that he walks around close to 190, so that cut to 145 has got to be absolutely insane. Even though he talks about lightweight a lot, I think Ilia Topuria is still going to be the featherweight champion at the end of 2025. Maybe even we get a Charles Oliveira, Ilia Topuria for the vacant lightweight title once Islam moves up to 155. That would be pretty sick. But I think Ilia Topuria's 2025 consists of Volkanovski rematch in April in Miami, winning that fight, and then sometime in summer, possibly even later than that in 2025, fighting like a Diego Lopez or the winner of a Diego Lopez and Movsar Evloev matchup in Spain if they can pull that off. But if they can't pull off the Spain fight, I could see them moving Topuria up to 55 to fight Charles Oliveira for a vacant 155 belt. That would be a sick fight. And so I think that the featherweight champion at the end of 2025 is still Ilia Topuria. Moving on from there, the bantamweight champion is currently Merab Dvalishvili. He's also fighting at UFC 311 against Umar Nurmagomedov in January. I think that Umar Nurmagomedov is going to win that fight. And I think that his next matchup after becoming champion is going to be the winner of like a Peter Yan, Sean O'Malley rematch. I'm pretty sold on the idea that they're going to do Peter Yan versus Sean O'Malley as a 5-round rematch, either as a fight night main event or as a pay-per-view co-main to decide the #1 contender for Umar Nurmagomedov. And I think that Umar probably beats both of those guys. O'Malley, I could see O'Malley or Peter Yan winning. I'm just saying right now, I think Umar probably beats those guys. And that's why I think the bantamweight champion at the end of 2025 is going to be Umar Nurmagomedov. Moving on from there, men's flyweight is in such a bad place right now. Alexandre Pantoja is a dominant champ. He's a great champ, but the division is in shambles. Unless they sign Islam Makhachev back to the UFC, we're looking at a slew of rematches for Pantoja. We're talking a Kai Kara France rematch, a Moreno rematch, and a Royval rematch, which he's fought all of those guys more than once, I believe. And even if they bring Makhachev back, I think Pantoja beats all those guys again. So I think just cut and dry, Pantoja is the flyweight champion at the end of 2025. I don't see anyone beating him right now, especially in that weak weight class. Moving on from there, we have women's bantamweight. The current champion is Juliana Pena. I think she's going to lose her very next fight, which probably is going to be to Kayla Harrison. I could see Kayla Harrison winning like a pay-per-view co-main event to become champion against Juliana Pena, and then potentially dragging Amanda Nunes out of retirement. And that would maybe be like the December pay-per-view. I talked about that in a video last week. And I think that Kayla Harrison at this point in her career would beat an Amanda Nunes coming out of retirement. So I think the women's bantamweight champion at the end of 2025 is Kayla Harrison. Moving on from there, Valentina Shevchenko. She's going to fight Manon Fiorot in her next fight. It'll probably be a pay-per-view co-main. Maybe they do like some random women's pay-per-view main event, and that's the title fight that they put for the main event. I think Valentina Shevchenko, I don't think anybody's got anything for her in that division. So just straight up, I think she's going to be the 2025. I think she's going to be super easy, cut and dry. I think she's going to be the women's flyweight champion at the end of 2025. Same thing goes for strawweight. Weili Zhang. She's fighting Tatiana Suarez on the Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland card in February. I don't think she's going to lose to Suarez. I don't think anybody has anything for her in that division either. And that's why I think Weili Zhang is going to be the women's strawweight champion at the end of 2025. Let me know in the comments below who you guys think is going to be the champ in each division at the end of 2025. Thanks for watching this video. Please make sure to like, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. It really helps me out a lot. If you want access to bonus content, become a channel member today by clicking the join button on our channel homepage or the link down below this video. If you're interested in some non-MMA content from me, go check out my podcast, What's Up Bro, with Wyatt and Bo, in the link down below. Go watch this suggested video, and I'll see you next time.